Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome. We will be getting started in about 2 minutes. Time for another live look at these markets. Tesla finally dropping. Take a look at that here shortly. Buenos dias. That's 13. Roger Ripple. Matt in the house. All right. Got the folks coming in. Market's looking good. What can I say? Is it a bull market? Looking good. Tesla. Let's start with Tesla because wowzers. Made for a good short trade for me this morning. That's for sure. Look at that. Should have held on a little longer. Nice. Good stuff in Tesla. Well, if you're short. If you're long, no. Tesla, so for those of you guys that don't already know, I do trade the stock market generally at the open. And by that I mean I don't trade the stock market all day, right? Because usually we got, yesterday was this whole thing, Tesla, and then right at the last 5 minutes it drops. I used to. It just takes a lot of time, and then you tend to get what they have, like different periods, right? So you get the kind of the opening drive, and then you get the morning session, then you have the midday, and then there's the market close session. And so what I tended to do before was trade the open or the morning and then the close. But anymore these days, I mostly just trade the morning and even the opening drive, right? And my goal is always to kind of hit my targets as quickly as possible. And it's pretty rare that I'll go more than an hour into the trading session. But today, I mean, I maybe traded 20 or 30 minutes. And Tesla is a tough trade either way, whether you're long or short, because it just moves so much, right? Generally, you're using margin when you're trading stocks, and I'm usually, I'm going after the 50-cent moves, $1 or $2 moves on leverage. And you're buying a couple hundred shares, 1,000 shares, that sort of thing. But with Tesla, you can't do that. I mean, one, it's a high-priced stock, right? It's $800 now. But also, I mean, if you look at the size of the moves, right, it goes from 845 to 775. I mean, that's a massive move. Even if you're trading 100 shares, right, that's a $66 move times 100. You get a feel for the type of potential, but it cuts both ways. If you happen to be on the wrong side of that, massive loss very quickly. And I've had those with Tesla. Tesla is a tough trade anytime. And so to put it into perspective, I was looking at a short today, and I waited for the bounce, and in fact I played the bounce very briefly. When I say briefly, I mean like this was a 3-minute bounce. I traded that for all about a minute, and made probably the equivalent of what I usually aim for my entire day in that minute. But it could have just as easily gone the other way. And then I waited for this to break, and then I basically caught this last leg down here. So was a good day in Tesla trading. But I'm done with stocks. That's the only stock I traded today was just Tesla. I decided to call it a day. I made, basically 5 times my goal, my daily goal. So it's a week, a week's worth of goal for there in about a half an hour. So it was a good day. Yesterday was a tougher trade. I was long and short on this one, and then I finally just gave it up after the morning session, but had a strong opening drive. Short, it was just all over the place. It was a tough one. But hey, you live to fight another day. But we're not here to talk about Tesla. I did want to look at that briefly. We'll look at the crypto markets here shortly. But man, oh man, the signs were there. I mean, in the big scheme of things, it doesn't look like a big of a drop, but it certainly looks like a significant turning point. And you know what they say, right? The last 90% comes at the last 10% of the time. And Tesla's been on a tear since basically this massive low at 180, which, that was a spike low. But even after that, it broke out 2 earnings ago. And after that breakout, it went up to yesterday's peak about 265%. But, the bulk of that, I mean, look at this, right? It was 120% at that point, and then literally in the last several days just popped and nearly doubled that. So just insane move. Certainly was climactic. That's what a climactic move looks like. The volume is the highest that it's probably ever been, if not, the highest this year. But I'm thinking it was the highest ever in Tesla, or one of the highest ever in terms of trading volume. And it was all over the news, all over Twitter. People were just like, I can't believe this. And it's just kind of anyone's guess how high that spike goes before it finally turns. And man, it went high. It went as high as $970. And then in the last 5 minutes just had that massive drop, and then here opening today just gapping lower. And so we'll see. It's going to get pretty choppy up the highs. I don't think it does one of these straight up, straight down moves. It'll probably start to get really volatile at these levels. It's always volatile. But man, Tesla market cap was just going insane. All right, we got Kabul in the house here. Yeah, one of those XRP stocks. Tesla, I mean, it'll come down here near term, but longer term, they're more than just cars, right? You got to keep in mind they've got the Gigafactory, and they've got a battery technology that they're developing and patenting, and their deep learning and their machine learning algorithms that they've had, because their cars are just so smart that they have basically a network of cars everywhere which they're learning from. And as the general automobile market transitions into fully electric and then ultimately fully autonomous, having the lead in machine learning, driving, and all that is going to be huge. I mean, you're going to see. I mean, you already have seen other car companies partner with them to learn from them, right? Toyota and BMW and some of those had long since been partners, but they're going to continue to learn. And I mean, Tesla's just doing good stuff. We'll see. But near term, yeah, it definitely got crazy overvalued. In my opinion, in my humblest of opinions. All right, let's see here. What do we have going on? Let's start with the BTC here. So what my intention here is to do a quick market update, but I want to share some thoughts on just kind of the longer term charts. We often look at a lot of near term price action, and if you're trading, you have to, right? But I want to look, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to spend a lot of time looking at weekly charts here, because I want to make a point, and not just in Bitcoin, but in many of the alt BTC pairs, and something to make note of there. So in the meantime, we will take some requests and look at some charts here. Let me make a notepad here for me. I do have a few names on the list here. We're going to go through some of the top names here on the trending list today. There has been quite a bit. Now keep in mind, for those of you that are familiar, this trending list is the names that are trending versus BTC. So this is looking at the BTC pairs, and it's ranked by the proprietary BMI, the Bull Momentum Index, which is this little number right there. And so it starts with the highest ones first and ranks its way down. And so you'll see names kind of move up and down the list accordingly. And then it gives you some other information, alerts, and all that good stuff. But we'll look at those. But I do want to just kind of look at some of the bigger picture stuff here first. So starting with Bitcoin here, I'm going to go to the Coinbase exchange here. This is the weekly chart. And there's a big question, right? Is this the beginning of a bull market? Is this something that's going to turn into one of these guys, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what we would all love to see, is another 2016 or 2017 style run. We had a pretty nice little run last year, right? And we've since seen a pretty good pullback, but the trend is finally breaking. We had a good reversal pattern form here on the daily chart, and then it's been off to the races for the last few weeks. But obviously, we're not over the prior high and nowhere near the old all-time highs. I still believe we will ultimately, whether it's this year or next year, we will ultimately break out of that old all-time high number. It's just a matter of when. The halving this year is a big fundamental factor, right? That's something to make note of. I'm watching this kind of giant little symmetrical pattern play now, which price could reach the top of that first line before dipping. That's just over 10K. And, you got the halving there. I mentioned also this kind of big inverse head and shoulder potential, right? If we started to see a dip on the weekly chart, forming that would be, in my opinion, a better setup than just continuing to rally here. It could. I mean, just like we saw last year, we had that big breakout and there was just really no pause for months. Maybe you had one red week here and there, but it was really just straight up. But I think this would be a much more sustainable move if you had this kind of reset and then a big break above that, because that would let this near-term chart really start to flatten out and then turn the corner here. But either way, is this the beginning of something bigger? I'm going to look at the weekly charts for the alts too, but one thing I want to note is if you look at the longer term time frames, right, the definitions, and they will vary, right? What's a bull market? Some people will say, well, if it moves X% or more in a year, that's a bull market. If it's above certain levels, it's a bull market. And so one of those levels could be a 200-day moving average, right? And that's what I have marked on the chart here. This white line is the 200-day moving average. And if you look at just, I'm going to take this off here. You can see, the moving average has kind of gone up and then it wiggles. So clearly it's much more smooth than the price action that dances in and around it. But what we're noticing is the moving average was spiking higher, is starting to curl down, and it's starting to go flat here near term as price is now crossing back above it. And so what you want to generally see is this type of action, right? The moving average trending higher, which we started to see last year, right? We saw this rise. And so what I'd like to see is kind of a flattening of this moving average and then one of these type of things, because then that would really start to paint the long-term picture. And what's going to cause that is if price starts to move around here and do one of these things, it'll pull the moving average up with it. And so technically, yes, price is above the 200-day moving average. And if you're looking at that as your confirmation for a bull market, that would be fair, but you got to also factor in, the perspective of that and say, well, it was above the moving average here and it dipped below, and it's been above the moving average again. But again, this is, just the 200-day is basically at 8,900, right? Just below that. So it's not like it's that far up, but certainly I would, you wouldn't be wrong to argue, hey, this is a bull market, price is starting to trend. The other thing is, where's the, some of the longer moving averages compared to each other. And let me hide my mess here. So if I looked at a 50 EMA relative to the 200-day, the 50 EMA is still below the 200-day moving average. They're still bearishly correlated, right? What you want to see is this type of action where the 50 EMA gets above and rides above the 200-day as they both go up, right? That's what you want to see. Right now, though, you are seeing this flattening, and they're about to cross here soon, which is a positive thing. If price can continue to hold above 9Ks, then that'd be a very positive thing. And we have to remember that this 9,100 level was a significant level that was watched. That was also where the first pause happened. That was the 200-day moving average. We were looking for this pullback. You saw a pullback just above that 50-day and a quick recovery and bounce back above. And so, in the very short run, the fact that price is holding above the 200-day, it's holding above this prior resistance level and quickly recovered from that. It gave you a nice little pullback entry here, a little double bottom on the 4-hour chart, very strong reversal after that. All in all, it's certainly giving a lot more, confirmation, I guess is the word, that yeah, we're starting to move into a bull market type of scenario. There's certainly some fundamental factors in play, like the halving and that sort of thing. The interesting thing that's going to be in play is, what does the broader economy in the global scape do, right? I mean, we've already seen reactions to, geopolitical crisis. We've seen it to health pandemics, right? And so far, crypto has held up as a good safe haven. I wonder if the general market, especially the U.S. stock market, if it tops this year, what does that mean for crypto, right? Is it going to be a full risk-off scenario, and crypto gets thrown in that mix, and people just start to dump everything in search of cash? Or do we see more influx into the crypto market as a little bit of a safe haven, as an alternative, as a counter currency, right? And I think we'll see some of the latter personally. If we start to see more of a currency crisis in nations around the world, especially if economies start to pull back, then I think there's the potential for Bitcoin and some of the bigger cap cryptos to act as some of that hedge, right? The smaller cap names, I think there's a different factor in play there, and it has nothing to do with the global economy, but it's more of we've been in this bear mode for a year and a half, 2 years, and now you're seeing this giant reversal. And if Bitcoin is starting to confirm, hey, the end of the bear, then I think the altcoins are going to say, let's join this party and play some massive catch up, which we're already starting to see. But I believe this is the early innings of what could potentially be a big altcoin rally. I hate to use the term alt season, I really do, but I think there are some good longer term alt plays that are going to be made here. If we look back at the end of 2020, we'll say, wow, if you had bought X, Y, and Z and boom, 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 boom at the beginning of January, this is what it would be, right? It might be one of those years. And so I'm a little bit more bullish in the alts, to be honest with you, than I am in Bitcoin, even though I'm bullish on Bitcoin. And generally, Bitcoin is kind of the key, the bigger hold in my holdings, but I'm a lot more bullish in alts because I think they'll play big catch up versus Bitcoin and ultimately give you more net Satoshis, right? And that would be just dandy, especially if Bitcoin eventually hits new all-time highs. And so those are my thoughts here, just kind of looking at the bigger picture here in the crypto market space. Again, near term, very good stuff. The trend is your friend, higher highs, higher lows. But I think it's too early to tell if it's a official bull market. It's always going to be in hindsight by the time we look back and say, yep, it was, that's where it started. You're talking months down the road. But you got to remember, right, this move is only about a month old. I mean, we've had, the big reversal started taking place late November through most of December. In January, mid-January, early January, finally got that breakout. And, we're just at the beginning of February. So this is only a month old. It's been a very nice rally. The daily trend is certainly strong, favoring the buyers. It's been very choppy up in here, but the pullback was mild. I kept thinking we'd see more of a pause pullback. Very mild. Couldn't even crack 9K. So from a bull market perspective, that's very positive, right? The surprises are to the upside in bull markets. In bear markets, the surprises are to the downside. And so for now, the bull remains. Trend is your friend. The fact that we had this very bullish reversal here today is positive all around here. Let me hide some of this other stuff now. We were watching, let me go to the 4-hour chart. And this Coinbase views 1 hour is a little too granular right now. But we were watching this, 9,200 being the battle zone, being fought, defended. Started to lose ground yesterday. Looked like it was going to dip further. But look at this quick reversal. A lot of volume started to come in as it pushes higher. That's very positive action. It's still range bound, but the fact that you undercut the lows and very quickly came back in is about as positive as you can get, considering this action couldn't even crack it, couldn't break down below, and now it's starting to rally. At this point, 9,500 doesn't look like very much resistance anymore, considering this pause. It's given the RSI plenty of time to consolidate. You got this big pullback right to the 40. That's always interesting. For those of you that have taken the ABCs of RSI course, I don't think that's a free course. I think that's one of the subscriber courses, but you understand where I have the bull and bear zone, this one right here, the ABCs of RSI. I talk about the bull and bear zone in terms of the RSI levels that I use. It's not just is it above 50 or is it below 30 or above 70, right? There's a little bit more to it. And so the fact that something pulls back and holds that 40 level is very positive, continues to remain in what I call the bull zone on this 4-hour chart. And so that looks good there. The fact that it reset, MACD's pulling higher, finally popping back into the green. And seeing where this can go. So back again, the two levels that I was watching, 92 and 95 here. I think it's going to take out 95 here shortly, and then above that, then you're looking at, the next kind of target is 99 up to that 10K zone. At that point, you're looking left. Go back to the daily chart real quick. You're in a little bit of a resistance zone here. You start looking at this range back here. Let me mark a line right there. That's basically where price is at, right? You had this spike that we saw here late last year, that 40% 2-day move, but there was a lot of resistance above that 9,500 level before finally really giving it up. Then here most recently, we saw a lot of resistance above that 9,500 level, 9,400, and the fact that this trend looks a lot more sustainable, a little bit more steady, higher highs, higher lows, makes me believe that this 9,500 level is going to finally be taken out. And then at that point, you're looking at 10Ks as your next target. So, not too shabby. All in all, it's all right. The trend is your friend. So let's look at the alt here, and then we'll start deep diving some of the names that are showing up here on the dashboard here today. But let's look at some of the big pictures. And I'm just going to randomly cycle through a bunch of names here, but I want to make a point. And these are going to be altcoin BTC pairs. And so, and some of this I've already covered. If you've been following the broader streams in the channel lately, I've talked about this a little bit, but look at these big charts, right? This is the weekly chart for Cardano BTC. And after a massive pullback, for the last, 6 to 8 months in some cases, it's been this very flat, very tight range. And at that point, it was kind of like, all right, let's make a decision, finally get out of here. And it did. And with volume too. Look, it's starting to push higher, turning the corner, breaking out of range, and there really isn't a lot of resistance until this level up here. And so it could really start to go on a run, even if it's just a bounce to that level, but you're talking a 40 to 60% move, right? In some cases, that's significant versus BTC. And of course, if Bitcoin continues to go up, then the USD pair is going to look even stronger. So, but the fact that you've seen these big pullbacks, from a investing, not a trading, but from an investing perspective, right? From a putting my long-term holder cap on, this makes for a much better risk reward, right? When you finally see them turning the corner after a long time low, this makes for a better risk reward trade or hold, in my opinion, than after this big dip and thinking maybe that's the end of the dip, I'm going to buy the bounce, right? Because this has kind of reset the entire chart. And in theory, it's like, well, maybe that's the low, and this thing just starts to grind its way higher. And from a longer term hold perspective, I get excited when I start to see those charts, when I start to say, okay, they finally found a low, and you're starting to see volume coming in, they're turning the corner. And this is the weekly chart, mind you, right? I'm not, in between all of this, yeah, you can have some big plus or minus 20% swings, but I'm kind of looking at, okay, position here holding through, September or December. What's that going to look like, right? What's this going to look like at the end of the year? And the risk reward ratio is just in your favor at that point, because you're looking at it like this. You're like, okay, well, if the low is going to hold, and that's my absolute stop, yeah, that's probably a 20 to 30% downside. But if this turns into a big move, what's my upside, right? 50%, 60%, heck, 100, 200. We've already seen Icon go up 200, 300%, right? So I start looking at it that way, as what's the longer term risk reward ratio? And again, this is talking months. We're not talking what's going to happen between now and 2 weeks from now, right? You're looking at the bigger picture at this point. But I start to get a little bit more interested when I see charts like that, right? Looking at EOS, big base coming off the lows the last several weeks, very strong. At that point, you start looking for those dips and thinking, man, those dips start to look a little bit more viable now. Look at names like BCH, already has had a big run off the lows, very nice move, still going, right? Not at that first target yet. Ethereum, look at ETH. This looks like a big double bottom in play, and the neckline is still up here near 0.23, and above that, then you're talking, another leg higher on the weekly charts. Of course, anything between there, that's just really good stuff, right? So from are we in a bull market question for the alts, right? it's too early to tell. Many of the alts are starting to say, yeah, we're starting a trend. Is it a bull market? Well, look at the weekly charts. They're coming way off the lows. Yeah, I think it's far from an official bull market. But if you go in and look at the weekly, the daily charts, excuse me, most of them, if not all of them, most of them are starting to trade above that 200-day finally. Look here, Ethereum in the last 3 days finally clearing that 200-day. Cardano has been above it here for the last couple of weeks. Bitcoin Cash has been far above it now for some time. EOS is finally getting above it, looking like it wants to keep going higher, right? So from that perspective, this leads me to believe this could be the start of something big. And if that's true, we're very early on in this, in my opinion, because I mean, after a move like this, big down, multi-year downtrend, finally going flat for 6 to 8 months, the bounces are usually more than just 1 month. Right, they tend to last for a little bit longer. So if that's true, then some of these have had big moves, but I think you're going to continue to see some very strong moves in the longer run if this truly is the start of a quote-unquote bull market in the altcoins. And also, we've talked about this too, but if you look at the BTC dominance here, I keep telling it keeps looking like it wants to make new lows, and so far it has been. Here we go, making a new lower low on the daily chart, breaking down finally. And that was what we looked at here at the last live stream. It's like it looks like it wants to keep going lower. If you looked at the inverse of the chart, it looked like it's breaking up, right? So from that perspective, that's good. If price of Bitcoin is going up and this guy here is dropping, then that translates into alt party. And so, is it a bull market? I think so. I think it certainly has the potential to turn into something significant. Here's Stellar Lumens, right? And a lot of these, keep in mind, a lot of these won't recover. Let's be clear about that. Some of these names that were the big winners in 2016 and 17 will not be the big winners in 2020 and 2021. That's just the way it goes. I mean, and that's been the cycle of crypto, right? You look at names like Golem, those names from yesteryear, they may just flatline for a long time and just kind of sit tight. And there's a lot of names that have come and gone in this space. Remember Feathercoin, Namecoin, all those other coins. Prior to the ICO boom, there was a bunch of names. But there are some where the project's actually really interesting and they continue to develop and maybe they haven't run out of funds. Those may recover. But then there's also this flock of new interesting projects that are not even on our radar yet that will come to the forefront. And, we see the top 10, top 20 lists named always have new entrants, and I think we'll continue to see that. But there's going to be those that persist. I think the big dogs that have stuck around for a while that remain at the top of the list will continue to persist because of a lot of factors. One, because of availability, the fact that you can buy ETH tokens or XRP tokens or EOS on a number of big exchanges, then that just makes it a little bit easier when people want to start getting into cryptos and into alts. It's a lot easier to quickly jump on an exchange that you have an account for than it is to, well, this alt only trades on these 2 exchanges. Let me go open up a new account and fund it and get that coin, right? It's just a lot easier for people to pour in a little bit bigger money into more established type of things, especially if you start talking about funds coming in and hedge funds and all that. They're not going to be buying the $10 million micro cap names just yet. They might take a small position, but they're not going to put, tens of millions of dollars into that, right? They're going to buy the bigger cap names. They're going to buy names at stake and that sort of thing. So all in all, not bad. Again, this is the early innings of what could potentially turn into something big. But, I was spending a lot of time looking at the weekly charts yesterday, and I'm thinking, man, a lot of these look really good from a risk-reward perspective. Like, the downside versus the upside is very favorable for some longer-term holds. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing here so far. I'm just going through some weekly charts here. But, okay, so now that we've done that, let's dial it in here. Let's talk about some trading, some near-term stuff here, and we'll go from there. I'm going to start making a list of names. We'll look at BTC here. Looks like it's breaking out here. BCH continues to rally. BNB was on a move here lately. Let's look at Dash. I'm going to cover some of the bigger cap names. Of course, ETH continues to look good. EOS looking really good. Cardano. ICX, Mana had a nice move this week. I've been talking about Mana for a little while. Let's look at IOTA, Neo, and Litecoin, Stellar, and Ripple. So I'm covering the big caps first, and then we'll make some room for some of the other names. And so going off of the trending list, again, this is ranked by top BMI names. So, you know, the most bullish momentum index, Utrust continues to live on the list here. Lisk, man, continues to move there. Vertcoin, there's a name from yesteryear's. Zcash, NAM still coming back to life. EOS, Litecoin, we know that. XRP, Cardano, Ocean, Quantum looks good. Tron, Loom. All right. It's probably good for now. The daily strategy has remained long. The 4-hour got a little choppy here in the last couple of days, but finally went long again with this reversal off the lows. So we'll see if that one finally holds. Okay, so there's some requests here. Aeon, Wabi, Link, Tezos, Engine. All right, keep them coming, guys. I will get started on the charts, and I'll keep an eye on the notes there. All right, so let's start with the BTC. Looking at the near-term stuff, I'm going to go to the 4-hour view here on Bitcoin. Again, just the action that we saw here today, all around, very positive, very bullish action, considering the fact that it had this shakeout below 9,200 and just couldn't follow through. The sellers couldn't follow through to the downside. The buyers continued to show up. And, you know, you saw kind of the big reversal. And generally what happens is you get this choppy action, you get the fake out, shake out, and then if it can't hold and it pops to the upside, then what tends to happen is you get a follow-through move that finally breaks out of range. The same thing happens on the upside. So if we would have seen a big pop and then it just kind of started to fail, and then you finally see it just quickly pull back in, that's bearish, right? Generally at that point, that's not a bad short trade because you can expect for that lower end of the range to finally crack. This is the inverse of that. And this is a continuation move. You look at the bigger picture, right? You look at the daily chart. The daily chart is still trending higher. The shorter term time frames were just kind of taking a breather. And to be fair, I was a little bit more neutral on here. I was kind of waiting for more of a dip to start reloading. But the fact that it kind of popped higher and started going just looks positive. Now, I've been mostly alts anyway, but you know, if you're looking at a BTC position, this looks positive here near term. I think 9,500 is going to be taken out finally. Then at that point, you're looking at 10Ks, right? 9,900 to 10Ks is your next target on the upside. Again, daily chart continues to hold up. The 10-22 EMA pair holding up here so far. We saw a pretty good dip back here. This was a very minor breather. There's still a lot of time left on this daily candle. I would like to see a lot more volume personally. It'd be nice if it finally breaks out and the volume was at least higher than yesterday's volume, but ideally higher than the prior 2 days. We'll see if that finally happens. There's a lot of time left on this candle, but some more volume would be better in my opinion. So that's it on the BTC side. I mean, just kind of breaking back into range. We'll see if it can hold there. If you're just joining, I talked a little bit about just the bigger term perspective, the weekly charts, my thoughts on longer term signals, bull market scenarios, that sort of thing. I would definitely, go check that out because I think from a long-term hold perspective, things are getting a lot more interesting here, especially in the alt space. And so that's, I'm getting a little bit more excited from that perspective. I think there will always be trading opportunities, of course, both up and downside. But when I start thinking about putting my long-term hold cap on, there's some interesting opportunities out there for sure. So BTC, we'll see if we can finally crack 9,500. I think it probably will. But let's look at some of these other names here. Bitcoin Cash versus BTC here. Big breakout here after look how tight this price range got. I mean, this was it was decision time for this bad boy, and volume just popped it right through. Very nice action here. Good stuff. Clearing resistance here. Look at the last two swing highs. Pulled right above all of that. Just continuing to march higher. And you can, this was a little bit of a sloppy one, but you could say this was certainly an ascending base, right? An ascending triangle type of base. But nonetheless, it was a good breakout watch and big pop to the upside. So very nice action. If you caught it, congrats. Good stuff on that guy. Going to the daily chart real quick here. RSI is starting to peak above 70s, but you tend to see that this again was a big breakout here. Little ascending type of base here. So measured move on something like this, I would use this swing low to the breakout point, extrapolate that out if you're doing a measured move. And let's see where that takes us. Oops, not that guy, not that guy. Takes you to about 40.047, give or take. Let me do something with a little bit more history on this. There we go. And then, this is kind of still back into this range back here. It's just kind of the next major resistance. So in and around that line where I have drawn 0.05 has been the longer swing target on this guy here. And certainly looks like it's about to get there. Especially after, what, 2 weeks of chop? Of sideways chop after that strong initial move. Looks like it's finally getting going the next leg up. All right, BNB. Binance coin maybe coming back to life here after you look at this daily chart. Significant drop versus Bitcoin. It is starting to show some life. I think if the quote-unquote alt season really gets going, generally BNB tends to benefit from that. And so going to that 4-hour chart, looking pretty interesting here. Starting to clear some resistance here near term. This was a nice little breakout on this short term. You got the candle right there. Big volume coming in on that spike, pulling back. Anything above, what is that, 1990 or so, it's probably not a bad throwback entry. Maybe as far as 19.8, but I wouldn't give it much below that. If it retraces this big breakout candle, generally not a good sign, but anything above that so far, looking good. Potential reversal name. Then at that point, you're looking at, up here's your next targets, and then you got to zoom left here, and then looking, anything above that is kind of your next major swing. But looking pretty good there. How does it look from the USD side? Nice little breakout. And the key level on the USD side was at 1850 mark. And it, it got choppy. It broke out, pulled back, but it never really broke below 1800 on a daily basis. Got going again, pulled back, finally getting going. I think this one still has room to run personally. Nice little pause on that USD pair. And in fact, I think the USD pair is the better signal to be watching because that was going to lead the BTC side. If it started to really break out of this pattern, I think, I think I mentioned that, but the BTC pair would likely find a reversal and could be seeing that here. So good stuff on there. Next target up is about $21, and then above that, $24. Dash. How's our friend Dash doing? Looking at Dash. Ooh, nice power pivot here today. Looking like it maybe is ready to get going again. Finally, it's had a very long consolidation, but didn't really pull back much. In fact, that's a pretty bullish if it can just go sideways like that. This is your breakout level here, but I generally look for these little signals here off the lows and like to jump in pre-breakout because that gives me a little bit more headway, right? So if I can get in, say, around there, then I got a tighter stop. I can just use that as my stop. And then after breakout, you're already in the green, and then you're looking at your swing high as your first target. That's a 3-to-1 ratio right there, 18% plus from this point, or maybe not that much, about 17% from this point. And then anything above that is just nice, right? So that's what I'd be looking at there. But on the daily chart, this is just a very strong chart, held up so far. So I'd be looking at that 22 daily EMA as your max stop, maybe even today's swing low, and then maybe you get another big leg. This one's coming off of a big long time low too. Look at how way down from the low, so it has room to run for sure. 0.018 is your next target, and then about 2.3 or so. Dash USD, I think, has a similar look to it. A little bit more ascending base. But still looking good here too. Looks like he wants to take out 130 finally. Dash. Nothing like watching Node Investor drunk. No, that's funny right there. All right, let's keep going. ETH continues to look good here. Liking this one again. I'm preferring alts over BTC here, especially big cap alts. And man, this one's still marching higher after finally breaking above this level, pushing, looking good. Next major range is up here around 0.022 and then 0.023. So far, so good. How's it look on the USD side? The trend is your friend. Good stuff. Have not done EOS yet. We'll do that one next. The trend is your friend. Never closed below the 22 EMA. Nice little pullback. Kept going here on the daily chart. About to cross $200. $200. And next, we're looking at around 220 as your next major swing. 220 to 230. So, ETH. I like it. All right. EOS had a good breakout yesterday after a little bit of ascending base pause. I mean, I love this pattern here, this little ascending triangle pattern, just really coiling up. There was a good question on the Slack room about, how do you trade the breakouts? Do you jump on them at the breakouts? Do you wait for a pullback? I do a little bit of both, but it depends on the setup and how strong the name looks. Something like EOS, after having that big run, pushing higher, really starting to consolidate like this, what I tend to do is jump pre-breakout into a position, not 100% of my position, but something like EOS where it does one of these guys, tests the lower trend line and then starts to pop back up. The next two candles are holding in the green. These are generally like good pre-breakout entries for me. I like to do that because what it does is, again, just like some of the other names we looked at, it gives you a much tighter stop. You can use a swing low of that. And it also gives you a better risk reward entry for when it finally does break out, because then you can use a measured move on the target. And here that's a 3.5 to 1 ratio. And so that's one scenario, right? You kind of initial position pre-breakout. And then when it confirms, there's two ways to trade that. If you have a conditional buy order, you want to do it right there, just above the line. Or if you're doing it a little bit more discretionary, you wait for an actual close outside of the line instead of waiting for that wick. And then either jump on it there or you wait for that throwback. And by throwback, usually I'll put a standing order on the throwback entry. So I'll put it just above the breakout point and maybe just below. And you're kind of just hoping for that quick dip to get you in, right? And this one gave you all of those scenarios. You had the pre-breakout, you had the breakout, you had the throwback for about 5 or 6 hours, and then boom, it gets going again. So there's a lot of different ways to jump on some of these names. And right now, even though the market's still really strong, I'm still leaning towards entries on pullbacks, throwback entries, even if it's on the short-term time frame, just because you still got a lot of chop and volatility, and I'm still liking pullback entries versus chasing the big green candles. Sometimes you miss them, you don't get the pullbacks, but when you do, it just makes for a better risk reward and a little bit easier trading on the psychology. Because I hate to get the jump in the candle and then just see it fully retrace. It just messes with your head. But the chop in between is tough. Yeah. Going back to the EOS daily chart though, it's just one of the stronger, bigger cap names out there. It continues to look good. Joining the party with ETH and BCH and Cardano. So, it's not a bad one there. It's looking pretty good from that perspective. Trend is your friend. Where are we going next here? EOS USD. Taking out targets left and right. Cleaning out that 450 targets. Looking like next big target is 560. That's quite the move from here, but looking really good. 560, give or take. Good stuff. All right. Oh, Cardano. Cardano. Don't know why I have that marked on there. Oh, yeah, we were talking the weekly. Cardano daily chart just continues to push higher, really gaining some momentum now. I mean, this guy's starting to really move quick. You can get that big kind of climactic spike towards the end there. We'll see if it can take out this level. It looks like it's testing it now. That was your first real big target off of this move, this initial breakout from the lows. That first swing high, that was the first real big target on the BTC pair on the daily chart. And then above that, I mean, there's like a little vacuum here. You don't got much resistance in this zone. So after that, it's kind of anyone's guess, right? You're in no man's land here. So this will be real interesting to see what happens if it starts to hold above the line. Let's go look at the USD side. That might give us some more levels to look at here. So USD side, taking out that first target. Next one up is 0.063. So that might be the one to watch. Watch the USD pair for a little bit more. And then above that, again, a little bit of a vacuum up until about 8 cents. So has some potential. Cardano, ICX, Icon. Oh man, so I was wrong on Icon. I thought it would topped 2 days or 3 days ago, and boy oh boy did it surprise and just give you 2 more days of insane move. The RSI got almost to 100. That's amazing. But finally pulling back and a quick move down. I hope you did not chase it. It's one thing to be in and just ride the move, that's fine. But it's another thing to chase at the top. That's just very dangerous. It's like people buying Tesla at $900. Like, come on, wait for a pullback. But man, quick spike. Look at the volume there too at the top. The highest volume from the entire move was on this big reversal candle. Kind of gave you some opportunity. Though it was kind of sideways before it's finally drifting back now. But on the daily chart, I mean, the 10 EMA is still way down here at 35.50, so even a pullback all the way to that level would only get it back to the daily 10. But that's a big pullback from the top. I mean, from the wick high, that's a 40% drop. So quick up, quick down. But what a move Icon gave. Very nice. Let's go back to Tesla. Speaking of Tesla, I'm just curious because it was my one trade today on the stock side of things. Yeah, I think this bad boy's got more to go. Quite the move there. All right. Mana. So looking at the Decentraland. Very nice move here the last few days. Again, finally breaking that downtrend on the BTC pair after holding the low there. And very strong move, quickly getting back to the old highs back in here over 500 sat before pulling back. But this one looks really good. I think it has more to go. Mana USD was what I was watching more. And I was looking at, 4.5 cents as your first target, which it clearly hit 4.8. And then I was looking at 5-6 cents after that. So hit the first target there. Now I'm looking at a 5.5 to 6 is the next bigger swing there. But so far, so good. Looking at Mana, I'll be covering that one a little bit more here in the coming weeks. But still looking good all around. IOTA. Potential throwback entry here, but keep in mind this has already had a pretty good run. I mean, it went up about 75%, pulling back. It is giving a little bit of a dip entry here, but what I'd like to see on something like this is, maybe like 1 or 2 dips and then get going. A little bit more of a bull flag type of move on the daily chart, similar to what we saw like on BCH, those type of names, or even Dash, right, where they pause for a little bit longer and then they give you a better base from which to go off of. I think Dash is certainly worth watching here on this daily chart. It looks pretty good there. But back to IOTA. Has been one of the stronger moves off the lows here. Nice little run. Little double bottom starting to form on this weekly chart. Go to that weekly there. Small double bottom, but you got this first low, second low, bullish divergence on that second low. A lot of volume coming in. And it's right at the neckline right now. And then above that, if you do a measured move on this guy, the weekly chart, double bottom, extrapolate that guy out. And then you're talking, you know, about 4,900 as your next target if it can break out. So that's what I'd be looking at. IOTA USD. IOTA tether runs right up to the target and pauses. Look at that wick. It may be hard to see on the stream, but there's a little wick right there, 3.6 cents, but still holding the moving averages. But this is starting to look a little steep. I'd like to see some sideways action here and then a break above, because holding a breaking above there would look good. It'd take out all this here. And at that point, you're talking a test of 5.5 cents. Or 55 cents, excuse me. I added a 0. All right, next one, NEO. Nice, not bad. It's been choppy here for the last few days, but man, it would not surprise me if you finally see NEO just go pop out of this range, just like we saw BCH and some of these others. But looking pretty good. This low, this had a chance to break to the downside. It had a fake breakout. It's just been real choppy here, but still holding up on that daily chart. I think you got to use the higher time frame on something like NEO. These pullback entries are always ideal, right? You had one here a few days ago. I highlighted that on the Slack channel, but it was back in here. And I said this would be an ideal place to hold. And look at it, gave you like 1 or 2 good candles. And then it pulled back and actually undercut that, wicked, but never broke the line, and then popped right back up. So not easy, certainly not easy, but it certainly held on a closing basis, held these moving averages before giving another leg higher. And not a bad little move, right? 8% before pulling back. Now it's pulling back to this prior swing high right here. And so I'd be watching that here for potential secondary entry here. And looking for that breakout on the daily chart. Pushing through. BTC taking out 9,500. Looks good. That was quite the bullish reversal here. Once we saw it break 9,200 and couldn't quite hold, and then pop right back above here a few hours ago. That's positive, man. And the alts are confirming. You know, it's one thing when you see the big spike and then the alts just keep going. They lead the way. They're confirming, so looks good so far. Ethereum Classic, never going down ever again. Oh, this one actually surprisingly has surprised me at how much it has held up here. Just a very bullish base here at the highs. I thought this was going to be a parabolic reversal, right? A big spike up, big spike down. But my goodness, this one's just holding up, looking like it wants to take out this range here. Ethereum Classic, man. And to be fair, it's just a name that I honestly I pass over quite a bit. I don't, for whatever reason, I don't generally trade this name. I don't like to, but has had a nice month. Litecoin. Looking at the LTC, still going. Good stuff here. Nice volume. Look at the volume patterns. They're very bullish here. Big volume on the way up. Quiet volume on the contraction. I'd like to see today's volume end high. That would continue to show the overall bullish structure, but higher highs, higher lows. Little dip here, minor dip so far. I'm still waiting for more of a pullback on some of these, but so far, the trend is your friend. Stellar Lumens broke out yesterday along with XRP. Looking like it's pausing finally. Here's the 1 hour view. Look how tight that got. Big volume came in on the push, continued higher for a few hours, finally starting to reverse. So going back to that 4 hour view, this is the first level of support you want to see it hold in and around there, holding those moving averages. Generally, considering how high it went up over this breakout point, you don't want to see it come all the way back down. I'd like to see it pause above this level and then, you know, finally get going if it's going to get going again. How's XRP look? Nice little pause. Again, XRP was just a bullish structure. Plus, it had some other factors going for it and leverage contracts and all that good stuff. But look at this breakouts over this big level right here. This is ideal. You got a resistance level. You have a very strong rally right to that resistance level. and you have a little bit of a bull flag, pop, and then finally it breaks out with big volume. Now this level has become support. So at this point, it's got to hold about above 27.50. You know, and right now the trend is your friend, so XRP is looking pretty good there. XRP on the USD side also has some good targets. So if we go to USD Tether, looks very strong, and this one's been trending higher just because it's held up relatively well versus Bitcoin. But you know, the breakout level on this guy was about 25 cents, and then you know now the next target on XRP is about 31 cents or so. Okay, some of the other ones here. Looking at Aeon, it's had quite the move. Finally seen a retracement after a very strong push higher. Coming down along with ICX and probably WAN. Let me check WAN real quick. Yeah, very similar price action. They move in tandem. But you know, if they're going to hold up, this is what you want to see, a little bit of a bull flag like we're seeing form right here, right? Something like that. Anything above this, which is what, 1200, would be a secondary entry if it can hold that, and then start looking for some potential follow through back to the upside. So yeah, asking about Cardano. I'm going to read them back in order of the ones I've done here. Of course, if you're joining late, we spent the first few minutes, well, actually, officially, I spent the first minute or two talking Tesla and stock trading. But then I did a kind of an overview on Bitcoin, my thoughts on the longer term market, you know, 200-day moving average, major resistance. We looked at the weekly charts of many of these altcoins to kind of just set the tone of what's going on in the big picture, right? My thoughts for the next months, and then after that, going down some names, and I'll read the list of names out in order, just so for those of you that joined late. We did Bitcoin, BCH, BNB, Dash, ETH, EOS, Cardano, Icon, Mana, IOTA, Neo, Litecoin, Lumens, Ripple, and now Aeon. So those are the ones we've covered. Wabi. Interesting. Wabi. Let's see what we got going on here. Daily trend, maybe trying to set a higher low finally. I mean, this one has more room to go before it finally can confirm, but what I'd like to see, like some of these other ones that were doing something similar, I want to see this downtrend broken, right? It's like in a little channel right now, this downward channel. First step is, can it go sideways, break out of that channel, and at least start to kind of hold, right? Get out of there. So that's what I'd like to see first. And then if it can start to do that, right, either a big spike higher, look for a pullback, or if it just starts to do one of these guys, maybe build a double bottom or something on the daily, then you can go. But a lot of times you get those small cap names, they just get out of range and they get going just because they trade such slight volume. But still trending lower, but it is trying here in the last couple of days. We'll see if it can continue. All right, Link. Chain Link. Looking at Link here, definitely one to watch for a breakout on the daily chart. Link daily is what I'm liking here. A little bit of a symmetrical pattern starting to form as price coils up. You know, and it's a wide range. If we take the lines off, because trend lines, I mean, let's be honest, they're subjective. And so just looking at the pure horizontal price points, you know, a bullish break officially is getting back over that level. A bearish break officially is getting below that level. And anything in between, you know, could be continued consolidation there, but definitely worth watching. I think it's setting up for another move, especially, you know, it's a continuation setup, right? You had the big move up, and then you've had about a week and a half, two or so of pause, letting things kind of cool off, settle out, and so look for volume to kick in if it starts to get going again. But I think it's a good setup there. Link USD probably looks a little bit better because of Bitcoin, but yeah, Link USD looks about to get going here, finally pulling back to the 10 EMA again, showing a little life here today as Bitcoin rallies. So getting back over 291, which was also this little resistance zone back in here. would be a nice little breakout. If it can hold above $3, then you're talking a pretty good swing after that. You're talking 340, $4 or so. And the BTC pair confirms it, so I'd watch it. I would watch it for sure. Tezos. Looking at the Tezos. Oh, look at that. So this was my markup from, I don't know when. Was that 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago? That was probably, did we look at that on the live stream? I think we did. I don't know. But, I had this little inverse head and shoulder. I talked about what was the target. The line there, which we saw a little wick up to today. That was the first target. If you look left in December, this was where the little double top started to break down. And so generally that's kind of your first retracement. You get a lot of sellers that were bag holders from up here finally going, okay, we're back to even, let's get out. So you might get a little pause at this point. But above that, man, this guy looks like it's getting ready to go again. So breaking above that, then you're probably looking at new highs for this name. Well, it looks like it's finally hit that first target. Let's see how it looks on a pullback. Tezos USD never really give you the pause. I mean, it gave you a very brief pause. Strong name. Good volume patterns too on this guy. Got a lot of volume on this wick here, but we'll see. I think I'm using the BTC pair more. And let me see here. I got two more, and then I'll go through the comments and see if we're missing any. Engine. Finally giving a breather here. Engine had quite the move. Going to the daily chart, man. What a move. Insane move it had. Finally, when it finally recaptured this breakdown point and broke out, I mean, it just did not look back. Got going here. Volume kicked in, and how much of a move was that from the breakout? About 50%, but how quickly they turn, huh? Going up, and then bang, starting to pull right back down. But nice move. At this point, it's pulled right back to the 22 EMA. We've saw a couple of wicks here. Now it's got to hold if you want to see this guy give another leg up. And then I'd be looking at around 1800 as your next target. If it can hold. Nice. Adam. Looking at the Cosmos. So I marked up this resistance or prior support that broke down, and it's just trending lower. And unless it can recover from that pretty quickly here, like in the next couple of days or week, just the trend is just not your friend. There's better things out there at this point that are holding up, consolidating, pushing higher, that have more upside momentum than looking for the bottom picking, in my opinion. Just because there's quite a few, right? It's not like we got a handful of names moving. There's quite a few outperforming Bitcoin. This one's just not right now. We did look at Litecoin here, probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 7 or 8 coins back. All right, let's go back to the BTC here. Looking good. I started the stream saying we'll probably break over 9,500, and it's pushing. Looking good. All right, let's see what else we got on the radar here. So we didn't look at Lisk. Lisk. I wonder if some of these names are going to finally start pulling back if Bitcoin gets going again and starts running to 10K. They've had quite the move here. Looking a little extended with Bitcoin going. You can see some rotation finally out of these alts. We looked at these guys. Zcash. Nice daily chart on Zcash. It's a break of the trend. It's good stuff. Zcash looks good there. Somebody's asking about XMR. Yeah, it's been on a nice trend. I mean, so what I was liking about Monero is the bigger picture here. Had this big reversal, little double bottom type pattern, finally pushing higher. You know, holding above 7,400 Satoshis, in my opinion, is probably the level you want to see it hold. But with so many of these alts, especially I hate to say the word older, you know, but the ones that have been around for more than 2 years, right? Some of these names that have kind of the bigger cap, kind of more established projects, they're all forming this bigger kind of reversal multi-month base, and I'm bullish on them from a longer term perspective in terms of this could be a very good year percentage-wise for all of them, right? Does it mean they go back to the old all-time highs? No. And I could probably make a bet that they won't this year at all. Like, very few will take out that level. But even a partial move up, a big move up over the next few months is a significant percentage move versus Bitcoin, especially if Bitcoin continues to break up to the upside and go higher. If these alts can hold up, play, you know, correlation to Bitcoin, then you're just getting outperformance on the way up, and you can't ask for better. Bitcoin going up, price of alts going up further than Bitcoin. I mean, that's what we all want to see. What else here? So I've been going for just an hour now, and I'm probably going to wrap this bad boy up here. Let me see. We'll look at ARG now. Grossel, high performance blockchain. We looked at most of these here. Is Nano still going? Yep. Nice double bottom, played out very well on Nano. Hit the target, spiked over it. A lot of names from yesteryear. A lot of the small cap names. GoChain sitting pretty tight here. We'll see if we can finally break out. ARK. Yeah, that's been a strong one. ARK and Lisk. ARK is another one where I've tried trading in the past and I just can't. I mean, from a hold, maybe, but from a trading perspective, this is just one that I just cannot trade. I just avoid it now. But that's a nice little double bottom, confirming right there. It's good stuff. Oh yeah, Raven. How's Raven look? Raven was looking good last stream. Potential throwback entry on Raven here. Anything above that? Look at it. You saw a wick almost perfectly to that point 2 candles ago. I think it still looks good. Whoops, not the 1 minute. Should we look at the 15-second charts? Nano, I just did. Very briefly looked at Nano. Just did. Looks good. Little double bottom. Hit my measured move target on the double bottom. Looks like it's pausing now, but yeah, it looks good. Daily charts look great. Above here, then this is your next big target, 1050 on the BTC pair. Lend, look at that, popping right to the line there at 355. Above 355, if it, you know, what you want to see on something like Lend, this is interesting because it had that big volume push and then it just quiet volume on this rise. I'd be cautious there, especially going right into resistance. But what you want to see, if it's going to keep going, you want to see this guy pop and then start to hold above this line. And then that would really set up for a kind of a bigger run on the weekly charts, right? With so many of these names that are doing that. They've had a nice move, though. Ren, Pivx. Oh, BAT. We never asked about BAT. This one's looking pretty good here. Testing resistance again on that daily. Ran right up to that point. But I'm liking BAT from the USD side a little bit more. And that one was a very clean setup. Just this little sending base, breaking higher, starting to push. Looks good. It's good stuff out there. Not bad, not bad. We'll stay with it until we go with it, right? I mean, we all know how crypto works. It's all fun and games, party, champagne popping everywhere, Lambos being ordered, and then out of nowhere, smack. Such is the life. Welcome to crypto. But all in all, it's good stuff. See if there's anything else going on. You know what I've noticed though here on this charts? So obviously look at the disparity here between the different types of alerts. The oversold alerts, very few names hitting oversold. On the move, of course, spiking. But look at the overbots, they're really starting to spike now. And so, you know, it's all relative, but when I start to see this, and this is altcoins, by the way, so when I start to see this, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. A lot of names starting to hit the overbought levels, and there's very few oversold. Like a month ago, it was the opposite. Like oversold was way up here, and overbought was way down here. So just something to make note of. Speaking of oversolds, what names are on the oversold list? Zen? Did Zen come back down? Whole bunch of small cap KuCoin names. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not oversold long term. It just hit the near term oversold. Short term, 4 hour hit oversold here. See that big dip into the RSI, 11 RSI. But the daily chart looks broken here. The trend's clearly changing, so I think it's got more downside to go before it's over. Who knows? Cool. All right, so if you're not familiar, if you're just joining, or if you've seen me use this before here, this is the nodeinsiders.com site. There's a link in the description to the informational page, like a little landing page for this, if you want to know more about what this is and what kind of information you can get. But this is the new and improved version of the Node Insiders, which launched in December. Got a lot of trading bots going on here. You've got the Bull Momentum Index for the big cap alts, and you've got some BMI watch list, the trending names. I've got tutorial videos on what all of this is, how do you use it, you know, some of the alerts related to these names. You can also pop a little chart here if you want to go check some of those out. They're all linked, so you know, it's got some built-in handy features there. In addition to the metrics here, you also get access to the entire video course library. So, you know, the 4-step trading course, psychology, risk management, indicators, some strategies, patterns that I like to trade, all there for the subscribers. There's some free videos here. If you're not a subscriber, you can still get access to that. And then you get an invite to the Node Insiders Slack community. It's a private Slack group, but we'd be happy to have you. And it's a great community. I mean, there's just a lot of really good ideas and charts and links to interesting news stories. It's good. I am really thankful for all of the members in the Slack community. You guys keep it professional and clean. There's not a lot of spam and just ridiculous stuff. I mean, I've seen other chat rooms where it becomes the internet very quickly. But the Slack group is just, I'm really proud of you guys. You guys are just keeping the contents superb. So good stuff. Node Insider coupon after the new all-time high. Yeah, after the new all-time high, I'm going to be giving out a few free Node Insiders memberships. Okay, let's see here. I'm thinking that's it, my friends. Thinking that is it for now. I'll keep it short because I know some people watch the replay and I don't want to make it like a 2-hour stream or anything like that. So I'll keep it short and we will call it a stream. Thanks for all the comments and the thoughts. We'll see you all in